Hi, beautiful souls. You have reached the Divine Femme Spiritual and Wellbeing Podcast. My name is Jess, and it is an honour to hold this space for you. My aim is to create a safe space where you feel amongst friends to talk about all things spiritual and wellbeing related without the fear of judgment. Our podcasts and products have been created to inspire positivity, empowerment, and sisterhood. Thank you for joining us. You are very welcome here. So we've got the wonderful Amy here today from Sacred Sounds to speak to us about all things sound healing and a little bit about her journey into spirituality and well-being. So, hi Amy, how are you today? You okay?
Yes, I am enjoying the sun that's finally shown up.
I know, it makes such a difference to your mood, doesn't it? I was sat out in my hammock in my garden last night and I was like, oh, this is so nice rather than being cooped up inside. It's so lovely. And I do love walking barefoot in the grass as well, which is super nice and grounded, isn't it? So yeah, I had a nice little barefoot ponder around my garden yesterday, which was lovely. So I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, just like a bit of an introduction.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I guess I've I've been on a spiritual journey. That's what people kind of call it for quite some years now.
Yeah.
I find like with spirituality, once you start going down the rabbit hole, it just grows legs and you go on.
It really does, doesn't it?
So many different things that you never even knew existed, and it's just
Yeah.
mind-blowing, the kind of things that are available, and they're just not in the mainstream. And I find that really sad because a lot of the things that have kind of helped me, I think would help other people. So
Absolutely, yeah.
I guess the first thing where it kind of came was Reiki for me. I had a Reiki session and yeah, it blew my mind. She told me about my heart chakra
Okay.
and that I'd lost somebody, a mother figure, and I did actually
Oh,
lose my mum
I'm
when I
so
was
sorry.
younger. So my mind was blown that she could read that from just one session.
Yeah, it is mental, isn't it? In a good way. Like I come from things being like well, still for now a registered nurse, and although I'm very spiritual, I do come from it with like a scientific outlook, and I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because a few years ago I absolutely wouldn't have believed in the things that I do believe in now, if that makes sense. I'd have probably even passed a comment like, I don't know how that's supposed to work, and I'm actually qualified in Reiki 2 now. I've done my Reiki 2 recently, and honestly, like the day that I did my Reiki 2 training, I started the day with really bad hip pain and I was on taking my quite strong painkillers. And then I come out of the day and then it took me till it come out of the training session. I was pottering about at home and then I was like, hang on a minute, my hip doesn't hurt anymore. And even though I know that it can be beneficial, I was so shocked, even though like I'd done my Reiki one and like I do believe in a lot of spiritual healing and things like that. But the pain had actually gone from being like really severe to just being such a slight niggle that I couldn't even it wasn't affecting me. And that's because we'd all been sort of doing like a Reiki share while we were doing this sort of training and things like that. And I was just like, that even blew my mind, even though I already believed in it, if that makes sense. It's yeah. But I absolutely agree with you in terms of a lot of things that help me as well are available at the mainstream. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, to sort of open people's minds to different things that's out there. And a phrase that I like to use a lot is try and see like spirituality and well-being practice as a buffet. You can sort of take what appeals to you and believe what appeals to you and leave what doesn't. You don't have to believe in everything that everybody else does. As long as you're getting something positive from the experience, that's all that matters really, isn't it? Um, so I've been to one of Amy's sound baths and it's absolutely beautiful. She creates such like a magical little environment with all crystal singing bowls and other instruments. And she lays like cards out for you and lights candles and incense, and it really is just dreamy. It's absolutely lovely. So I just wanted to know when you sort of got into sound healing, did you train in for that? Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, so I didn't know very much about sound healing. I'd been to a couple of sound baths,
Yeah.
and there are different sound baths. So you can go to Gong sound baths and you can go to Crystal Bowl sound baths, or Tibetan Bowl sound
Mm.
baths. I was drawn to Crystal Bowls the most. I think they have such a, like you say, a dreamy kind of like effect on the body, whereas a gong I think goes a little bit deeper, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very different sound bath for me. But yeah, I was introduced to sound bowls on a retreat that I went to, and yeah, I just got really interested in it and kind of thought, this is where I want to go.
Yeah.
So I went for some sound healing training, and just kind of started doing sound baths, and it just flew. Like, I can't tell you how quickly it took off.
That's so good. You absolutely know that you're on the right path as well, don't you? When something takes off and just goes out on legs that quickly, you're like, yeah, I'm definitely meant to be doing this. And you can tell
Yeah.
when you're doing something and it absolutely sings to your soul. Like you're like, yes, I'm meant to be doing this. And that's usually why like it goes so well. So just out of curiosity, just out of my own nosiness really, because I was briefly looking into sound healing and things like that. How long are the courses or does it vary if you want to be a sound healing practitioner?
It varies. There are kind of 5-day ones, online ones, day ones. I didn't do a specific sound healing with bowls.
Yeah,
Mine was a general sound healing,
yeah,
which means I can like do different modalities. But there are so many different schools and practitioners that are offering this, and I'd say just go with who you feel
yes,
aligned to, um,
yeah.
and which modality you want to use as well. You'll have a preference, and you'll know once you start playing some different instruments which one kind of calls to you.
Which ones you feel drawn to? Okay.
Mm.
So I just wondered if you could kind of, I know I've briefly spoken a little bit about how you set things up, your setup, but I wondered for those who haven't been to a sound bath before, if you can sort of describe it in sort of your explanation, if you sort of describe sort of a typical sound healing session for you. And if you, I don't, do you do any sort of private sound baths, or
Yeah.
would you like to talk us through a little bit about that as well, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my main aim in a sound bath is to create a safe space where you feel safe enough to relax and really let go.
You
So
absolutely do
yeah.
that.
Oh, thank you. So I do like the candles and the incense. I cleanse the space and make sure the energies are really clean. You lay down usually. Although for those people that can, it's okay to sit as long as you're supported, and you're not going to fall over. And yeah, it's really, I lead you into like a really small meditation just to ground you into the space. And then, yeah, I will start playing the bowls. I've got chimes, gosh, lots of different instruments now.
I love the rain sounding one. The
Oh,
rain one.
yeah, that's like the ocean drum. They're beautiful. They're everyone's favorite.
So nice.
Um, And then, yeah, I like to have oracle cards, as that's kind of part of my practice. And it's not you don't have to choose an oracle card. It's only if you feel called to do so. And then at the end, it's really important once we've had the sound bath to ground everybody back into the space and make sure that you're not going off still, in a wrong headspace, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's so beneficial, but it can also like, whilst you can come out of it feeling very relaxed, occasionally, like with any sort of therapy, whether it be like holistic or like an actual counselling session, if it unearths something that you've been suppressing, sometimes when you come round, you can feel a little bit emotional and things like that. So, do you have any sort of self-care tips with you sort of feel a little bit emotional coming out of it? Is there anything that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so I've had quite a few people be emotional at the end. And although it doesn't feel nice at the time, it's actually good
No,
because
it is.
it's not trapped in the body. You're releasing that emotion that needs to come out. So that's really, really important. I always offer aftercare for people. They're welcome to contact me, 2, 3 days after if that's what they
Yeah,
need. It is important for aftercare and not to just be right, bye everybody, like on your way. It is important to, speak and to speak this out. And yeah, it is important to do that.
absolutely. And whilst, in my background as a nurse, when I've been sort of speaking to people who have counselling, there's a lot of people who disengage with counselling because sometimes it can make you feel more emotional before it makes you feel better. But actually, it is, a sign that you're releasing sort of suppressed feelings or trauma. Um, and this is more from, well, I suppose it's a scientific perspective as well, but more of a spiritual one on my part. It's very much like the book, The Body Keeps the Score, isn't it? If you have suppressed things that you're not dealing with, that can manifest with physical illness and mental illness as well. From a scientific perspective, we know lots about how stress can cause physical and mental implications on the body. So, it's it is really important to sort of release those things. And you do create a very nurturing environment to support people if they are going through that, because what Amy does is at the end of the session you can talk as well, can't you, and share your experiences, which is really quite beautiful. And because everyone there is like open-minded and willing to share, it very much feels like a very much sort of a sisterhood environment. Like you just among, I know anyone can go to your sound baths, can't they? But when I've been there, it's been predominantly women, and it was so beautiful that everyone just sat and sort of shared kind of a bit about what had been going on in their life and things like that. And it just made you feel like you're part of a much bigger collective and you're not by yourself. And I can remember when went to one of your sound baths, I got chatting to a lady next to me, and some of my health conditions are quite rare, and her daughter had the same health conditions as me, and the chances of it happening, and encountering someone like that, and just me being next to her was quite strange in itself. And we had a conversation about that and was sharing about that, and she was telling me about her daughter's experience, and it was really kind of quite, I don't go, sorry, I don't mean to make it about me, but I don't go many places by myself due to seizures. Obviously, it's not safe going by myself. So my partner sort of came to the sound bath with me, dropped me off. I explained to you beforehand, didn't I, about my health problems. And I just honestly, there's not many places I feel I've always pre-seizures, I've always been someone who goes off and does things themselves. I'm lucky that I've never suffered from anxiety going places by myself or things like that. But obviously, due to the safety aspect with the seizures, I have to have someone with me. But I honestly felt so safe in your session. I spoke to Amy beforehand and talked about sort of like my health problems and if I'd still be okay to come. And you and the other people that were there just made me feel sort of so safe and secure, which for someone like me and my health problems, that's massive because it's not something that I experience very often, if that makes sense, because I don't really go anywhere by myself anymore. So it was so lovely for me, and I just wanted to share that with you. I hope that's okay. It made me feel very
Oh,
safe and secure. I've seen recently on your Instagram, when I've been like fangirling, looking at your Instagram, liking all your posts, you've got into shamanic drumming recently, haven't you? Or is it something you've been doing for quite a while? I think with sound healing and sort of drumming, it's either something you love or it kind of you love, or it's not for you. But I absolutely love it, and I love shamanic drumming and things like that. So how are you finding that? Are you starting to incorporate into your practice, or is it just something you're dipping into at the moment?
so yeah, the shaman, I love drumming.
Yeah,
The vibrations going through your body is amazing. But when you do it in a group, Oh, it's just like it's mind blowing.
Oh,
It kind of takes you back, like it's like a remembrance, like you've done this before. It's really powerful. It's a really powerful experience, especially in a group.
yeah,
And you don't have to have like any experience. Like I just, I'm not musically trained, like as
yeah,
in, good at music and stuff like that.
yeah,
I know I like it, and I know that I like a good beat.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's really powerful. If and it isn't for everybody, and I get that. So I wouldn't do it in a sound bath,
Yeah,
because I think it's a different kind of vibe to the crystal bowls.
yeah.
But I do hold separate drum circles for that reason. So it's separate, because it is a different kind of vibe. But yeah, it's beautiful experience.
It is beautiful. I've never been to a drumming circle. I would like to go to one, but I have been there while someone's just like led a meditation and played sort of
Mm,
like shamanic drumming, and you the word you use, remembrance, it really it makes me feel really like connected to the earth and really almost grounded, because it feels like something that's been here long before us, doesn't it? Does that make
yeah,
sense? That's exactly how it makes
absolutely.
me feel. It
It's
also
really
makes me want to
primal.
dance as
Really
well.
primal.
So you hear like the drumming, it absolutely just makes me want to like dance. I mean, I've not done that yet. I'm embarrassed myself by dancing, but like it, because you can feel like the vibration in your body, can't you? And it does just like I was talking to my friend Becky Jane about it, and she was like, "Oh, it makes me want to dance when I hear it." I'm like, "Oh, I'm glad it's not. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I do as well when I hear it." Yeah, it's really sort of. Yeah, it just really makes me feel sort of like connected to the earth and sort of people who was here before us, and yeah, it's a beautiful experience. It's really good. I was just wondering if you'd be able to tell us a little bit about any science behind sort of sound healing and what it can help with or how it works.
Yeah, so everything on this planet vibrates at a frequency. And that's why you sometimes vibe with certain people and you don't.
Yeah,
Because you're probably not like on the same frequency, basically. And it's the same for brainwaves. So when you go into a sound bath and when the bowls are played or the gong, they emit a certain frequency which can calm your brain waves down into a theta brainwave state.
yeah,
And this is like that kind of really relaxed stage when you might like go into a dreamlike state. And that's why sound baths are quite relaxing for some people because you've
yeah.
calmed the brain waves down basically. So yeah.
It's really beautiful. And what type of conditions might it help with or help alleviate some symptoms of?
So yeah, so many different ones that people say. So stress, fatigue. I've had people who have not slept in years that have come back the next day and said, I had the best night's sleep of my life. Um, it can ease aches and pains. And eventually, if you did them regularly enough, it would really help with like long-term conditions. Because you're relaxing the muscles in the body and you're getting those emotions out that we talked about earlier, so they're not trapped in the body, therefore, preventing disease.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's huge actually, and it's a really ancient like way of being. Like the Egyptians knew about it, like this
yeah.
like
With doing
it,
sort of the sound healing within the pyramids and things like that, wasn't there, for the frequency? For me, as someone who has widespread joint pain, and I get a lot of tension in my muscles due to the seizures. The fact being in such a relaxing environment kind of like helps ease that tension within my body, and I find it really helpful just to sort of get into a more relaxed state. As obviously when you are in pain, you hold yourself differently, you can get different tensions in different muscles which might not have been affected before because of your change in posture and things like that. And I do find it really sort of soothing and relaxing. um and I literally had the best sleep that I'd had in years afterwards. After I go to any sound healing session, you go away and you just feel so peaceful and so relaxed. Like the sleep is really good. And I heard an interesting analogy for people who don't necessarily believe in sound healing or frequencies of different people. When I always sort of give an example to people of energy, and they don't quite understand it. So I've got most of my friends are open-minded, but some of them are quite skeptical because they're not into spirituality. They're very open-minded and they're very interested about things that I want to talk about, and they're very kind, but they're on the fence a bit when I'm speaking about energy and like vibing with different people and whatnot. And they're like, well, what do you mean by that? And I was like, well, have you ever walked into a room where someone's had an argument and you've not known, and you go into that room? Or like, no one needs to open their mouth, but you can tell there's an atmosphere that the vibes are off. And they're like, oh yeah, when you say it like that, it does actually make sense. And we've spoke about frequency and sort of how it affects the body. And I was like, if you put, this is how someone explained it to me when I was sort of starting on my sort of spiritual journey. If you put like a bowl with some water in and you put it on the top of a speaker or an instrument that vibrates, you can see the patterns and the movement that that creates from the vibrations within the water. And there was like the majority of the human body is made up through water. So how can we not argue that it doesn't do something to us when it can literally manipulate what we constructed of? Does that make sense? Like,
that's 100% true.
and when I thought of it like that, I was like, oh yeah, because I've always been open-minded, but obviously coming from quite more of a scientific modern medicine background, I kind of, when I was going into things, I did believe in it on a spiritual level, but I wanted the science as well. And I just thought, well, yeah, that makes absolute sense. How could it not sort of impact us in some way, shape, or form? And I was just wondering about, I've never had sort of a private sound bath session. I was just wondering if you could speak to us a little bit about what that would entail.
Yep, so I would come to your house, or we could rent out a space, depending on whether it's a private group session or a one-to-one. And we'd have a little chat beforehand and maybe like have a little herbal tea, kind of find out what's going on. And then I'd probably do the same kind of candle lit incense, because it's all for me about creating a sacred space,
Yes.
and cleansing the energies and going into the sound bath and then sharing afterwards. It's a lot more personal. I'm actually training to be a shamanic practitioner at the moment.
Oh, amazing. That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's so exciting. But it's a year-long course and I've got lots of case studies to do. So it's not a quick path. That
Yeah.
I will probably eventually introduce some of my shamanic work into the practice as well, I think. Yeah, going forward. So watch this space for that one.
No, that'll be really beautiful. So do you want to tell people where they can find you and where you sort of do your sound baths at the moment, your group ones?
Yep, so I do two in Pontefract at Santosha Yoga Studio, which is a beautiful space, and the sound there it's really good. I also do one at the Hidden Gem, which is the one that you came to.
Yeah.
So that's next to all the crystals in the shop, so there's lots of energy going on there. That's beautiful. I'm also in Sherburn in Elmet. And I do a Reiki one with one of my soul sisters. So we share that one. It's a really beautiful modality to have both. The sound healing and the Reiki. And I'm also over in Leeds at Ukshana now. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm kind of like I said, it's really grown legs. It's just
No, that's really good though. It's nice to sort of, I think it's nice to work in different areas as well and meet different people. And yeah, no, that's really fab. Oh, I'm so happy for you that you sort of like it's
yeah,
branching out into
thank
all these different
you. I've
places. And
also got other practitioners contacting me, and we're doing a couple of like day retreats. I've got like a yoga retreat this Sunday where we're doing
oh, that's so
yoga
good.
and sound healing. I've got a Pilates teacher. So I mean, like I said, it just grew legs, and people were just like, oh no, no.
Oh no, that's so beautiful.
Yeah,
Can
and I
you
just love it. I just love seeing the benefits that people, going off and then coming back time and time again because it's really helped them, and that's my main kind of aim.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And even if you don't have sort of any, you're not suffering with your mental health, you don't have physical health problems, it's genuinely so relaxing. And, a bit about my products and this podcast in general is very much about promoting self-care because we live in such a busy, fast-paced world that we often think, oh, we'll put that load of washing in, or I'll do this job, or I'll do that job, rather than actually spending 5 minutes to pour back into his own cup. And I just think, going to sessions like this, or if, at the minute people can't afford to go to sessions, spending a little bit of time listening to healing music at home. I know it's not the same as being in person and getting the whole experience and feeling the vibrations,
Yeah.
but it's just very much about, I just want to encourage people to sort of spend that time to sort of put back into themselves and look after themselves, because I think, this goes for everyone, but I do think sort of women in general are so focused on looking after other people, and if they have children, looking after the children, or looking after the parents if they're elderly, that it's quite easy to sort of forget ourselves along the way. And I just really want to encourage people to look after themselves, and sort of nourish your mind, body, and soul, really, and just sort of really do sort of care for themselves. So it's so fascinating just to hear about different different people's opinions and how they work and how the treatments can benefit. I mean, I say to a lot of my friends who don't have health problems, I mean, I'm 30, I'm still young, but I just say, please look after your body, because, it's the only one permanent place you have to live in this lifetime. Does that make sense? So I'm like, please look after yourself and don't wait till something becomes a problem to start looking after yourself. Quite often, we push and push and push ourselves until we get to a point where we're like, oh, really stressed, really run down, getting all these cough, colds and bugs. And it's like, actually, if you slowed down a little bit or just allowed yourself that little bit of self-care and time to relax and unwind, you could have actually have prevented some of these things from happening. So I'm very much about encouraging people to really look after themselves in general, rather than sort of waiting to a point where the body is in sort of stress and overdrive and things like that. And I just think it's more important than ever.
Yeah.
Like, you leave work, you've got your emails on your phone still. It's just so important to just have that time to just switch off and unwind. And that's what I feel. I feel very passionate about.
Yeah, and I do get like just like busy mums come in, and there's
Yeah,
all they want is that little 1 to 2 hours to themselves, just away from the house, relax, fill their own cup, like you said, and
yeah,
then fill everybody else's. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And that's when you frazzle out. Which
absolutely.
just reminded me, I do a mum and baby sound bath.
Oh, that's so lovely.
And for like new mums, because 20 minutes of a sound bath is actually equivalent to like 2 hours sleep. So for mums that are not getting that with newborns, it's really nice. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
that's amazing.
My heart is so full after that. Like all the little babies, they have like little releases, little giggles, some cry, but you were there with other mums, babies cry. Like it's a safe
Yeah,
environment again for that. So yeah, it's beautiful.
that's so beautiful. That's actually so sweet. And I bet they find it really, really relaxing. The fact, like you said, it's a safe space for them to bring the babies without having to worry if they cry and things like that.
And they meet other
So,
mums as well. It can be quite a lonely time sometimes when you've just had a baby. So it's nice to have other like mums who are kind of into the same kind of thing. Because I know there's lots of different modalities for new mums, but sometimes it's not for everybody going to like one of these baby raves or like things like that. They might want something different, like the spiritual.
it's combining their interests then as well as meeting other
Exactly,
mums.
yeah.
So it's like, I think it's so important that, I mean, my partner's currently pregnant with our first baby. Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So we're 13 weeks pregnant, but it's very much about like from when I've spoke to other people. Obviously, I don't have that to compare it to yet. I will do soon, but people tend to lose themselves a little bit when they become a mum, and it's very much, you know, people become the mum, but then they lose a little bit of themselves along the way, don't they? Because they're giving so much to the children. So the idea that you're creating this sort of space for mums and babies where they can meet other mums, but still actually be themselves, because they're not just going to a generic mum group, they're going to a group that's got their interests at heart. So not only is, you know, they're getting that mother and baby contact, they're also like feeding into their own, you know, doing things that sing to the soul, they're doing things that bring them joy, they're speaking to people with similar mindsets and interests. So then, you know, if they do want to, if they make friends and go off and do things, it's not solely just focused on the baby or the child, it's about what they're interested in too. And I think that's so important.
It'll benefit them and the baby, so it's like a win-win.
Yeah, exactly. And I always say to people like who are so focused on sort of looking after other people and being there for other people, I mean, I'd like to think that people would take self-care for themselves and with them in mind because they deserve it. But actually, if people struggle to do that, think how much better you can be present and there for other people in your life if you spend that time to refuel yourself as well. And I just think it's so important, really important. Sorry about that little noise going on there. Oh, are we back? Yeah, we're back. So thank you so much for chatting to us today. There's probably loads of other things that I could ask you, and I'm just like, I'm sure I'll think of all sorts after. I love speaking to you. You're so interesting, and she's very welcoming and friendly. Do you want to tell us what your handles are on Instagram and Facebook so people know where to find you? Your Instagram name.
So they're all a bit different, but it's usually like Instagram's my main kind of area. I'm not that great on Facebook, but I do have stuff on there. But Instagram is amy.at.sacred.sounds, and then you'll be able to probably find me on my other modalities after that, because it's I can't remember my Facebook one.
No, don't worry. I'll find it and I'll pop it on the video as well. I'll write it on the video so people know where to find you as well. So I've started asking people at the end of the episode to sort of finish things off nicely. What is a mantra or a quote that you like to live by at the moment? It can be anything you want.
So it's quite funny because I'm sat here and I've got a print on the wall, and it literally says inhale, exhale, and it's just to remember to breathe.
Oh no, that's perfect, and that really does resonate with me. My partner sometimes goes to me, why are you sighing all the time? And I don't realise, and it's not a sigh, I don't realise I'm doing it, but every so often if I feel like my energy is a little bit stagnant, or I've just kind of been sat for too long, or I don't know, I do it now without even thinking. I'll just take a really deep breath in and a really deep breath out, and she'll be like, what's wrong with you?
I do that. It's like I forget to breathe or something, and I'm like, oh, and it's like I have to do this release, but it's just, remember to breathe. It's like inhale, exhale.
Yeah, I just think sometimes though it can be really good. Like if I struggle quite a bit with like procrastination and things like that, and I just sort of think taking that little bit of, just taking a couple of moments to take a few deep breaths in and out and just be like sort of get rid of stagnant energy, it kind of like focuses your mind on what you're doing, as if to say, right, I'm going to get up and go and do things now. So no, I absolutely that's a brilliant quote. I can relate to that one. So thank you so much for chatting to us today. It's been brilliant. And I hope I've not waffled on too much, but thanks so much for coming on.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.